Here's hoping this thing focuses. I'm gonna blame it on the moon. Yeah, that's what it is. Hi, I'm Jane with Scraptastic Yarns Podcast, coming to you from Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, where we are scheduled to get another snowmageddon with ice tomorrow. Woohoo! I had a bus trip scheduled, and that has been rescheduled, so it's crazy. This weather. And, around here, they talk about something called the onion snow. I had also gone down to the bus company to arrange for another bus trip on March the 7th. And while I was down there, they wanted to, they have this new feature that if you pay a few dollars extra, if you have to cancel the trip, then you don't lose your money. Normally, if you cancel the trip for some reason, you lose whatever trip you've paid for with this company. But I'm not worried about that because rarely do I cancel. And if something were to happen to me, it wouldn't matter. My husband wouldn't have a clue as to know where my money goes. He doesn't pay attention to my checkbook, which is fine with me. Today is February the 19th. February is almost over. But like what I said, is this little onion snow is a snow that they get at the end of the season. And whenever the end of the snow season comes, you know you can plant your onions. The onion snow may come in March, it may come in April, but you don't plant your onions until you've had the onion snow. Here's my question. How do you know when that snow is going to come? It could be March. It could be April. They've had snow as late as May. Some of the Pennsylvania isms crack me up, and that's one of them. I want to welcome all my new viewers. Thank you to the old ones who've stuck with me for so long. This is kind of a crazy ride here, but we're having fun doing it. The hand is a little bit better. I am able to go ahead and, when I'm loom knitting, use that hand. I do have a little bit of pain once I get it stretched out. I am able to crochet now for an hour a day, so I can make 2 baby beanies. But the left-handed's not going too bad. The loom knitting with the left hand, however, is a little stressful. So that's going to be questionable as to whether that is a skill that I'm going to be able to accomplish. But, like I said, it's going to be awkward. It's going to feel strange. Going to have to practice it. That's the way it works. That's how you get better at whatever you're doing. So, yeah. Been a little crazy around here. I do have a loom poncho that I started, and that is with the red heart. I'm not going to pull that S loom out because it is on the rotating stand. But I have started that. I'm into the 3rd repeat of a lace section. And the lace section is the part that takes the longest with the loom knitting. I have 2 items that are on the needles. One is a shawl that was done with the, as Claudia calls it, the hellespun. But I realized when I was winding those up into cakes that these were some very old yarns. It used to be called color waves, not homespun. So I find that rather interesting. But it's still on the needles. I've got it way over here buried in the side. I'm not going to pull it out. The other thing is I have a purple shawl that you remember a long time ago when I pulled out those bags and I had items in these bags that I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. This one project is a shawl. I cannot find the pattern that went with the shawl, and there's probably about this much of the shawl that's done. It's a triangular shawl. And I thought about just finishing it off in my favorite stitch with knit, which is garter stitch, and throwing in a few eyelets here, you know, those kind of things. But I believe I'm going to frog that thing. Pattern that's in it is really pretty. I thought it was a pattern called Oaklet, but it is not. So it's going to come off the needles. On the hooks, right now, I don't have a thing on my hooks. But I do have a few finished items. And of course, we have lots of baby beanies. Using up the scraps. Oh, that was a nasty seam back there. So I'm getting rid of the scraps here and there. Well, that was another one that was crocheted. Now this is all done with my left hand. And we're going to get to these. The unraveled mitten has a very nice stash buster that's going on. And of course this is block number 2. And this was done in the left hand. And these little what look like baubles are actually triple crochets. I had no problems with the single. You know, got to that treble and I thought, oh my goodness, doing it left-handed was really tough. However, what I thought was interesting is everybody talked about how they had to rip it out because they got off on theirs. I had no problems with that part. However, you will notice that around the edges I started with a single crochet because my first block was 12.5 inches and these were supposed to measure, I believe she had 12 inches, but I decided to go ahead and stick with the 12.5. And I got 2 rows, 2 rows of the single crochet, and I thought, I'm not going to do more rows because the way it was going to come out, I was going to have to do about 5 rows. So I did 2 rows of half double crochet around. I'm okay with it. Scraps. Let's use up the scraps. And then here is this lovely block number 3. And it was one of the easiest blocks to do. The color work is real easy, simple. You carry up the yarn along the sides. And I like the way it came out. I did a hat in this gray with the purple a couple of weeks ago that I turned in for the babies. And I really liked the way it came out, so I decided to continue with that. Now we're going to go to the loom knitting. This was a hat that I had started on the looms. And this is using a number 5. I want to say it was one of the loops and threads. Number 5, can't remember the colorway. It's upstairs. I'm not going to bother to go find it. But as I got to doing it, I thought, you know, I'm really sick and tired of doing this single knit, which is done in a unit. So I added another row of the garter stitch on top. On the very top for decreasing, I did an alternate decrease, which basically for the last 2 rows of it, you do knit 2, purl 2, and then you take a piece of scrap yarn, you do like a drawstring bind off, and you take an extra piece of yarn, same way as if you were doing it with the drawstring bind off, enough to go around the hat, your loom, and then the purls get put on the primary, the additional strand that you've cut. You pull all those off the pegs, put them onto the additional strand, tie it in a loose knot because you're not going to worry about it any further, and then you take the ones that you did, the 2 that you did the knit, put that on that primary drawstring. Then you come back in, pull this tight, put a couple of knots in it. Don't weave your ends in yet. And then you, with the primary drawstring, you will pull that nice and tight, and then take it down into the interior, tie it off with one of those other strands a couple of times, weave in the ends, and then you can weave in the primary ends and all the other ends you had. This was, I believe it's meant for a child. Yeah. And it could fit a child loosely. It's a little tight on my head. But this will go to prayer shawl, since it is a little bit bigger than what hats Billy was doing. The other one was with my small Cindy Wood loom for the baby hats. Just a little ribbing stitch and then just a regular knit stitch, purl stitch. And of course I use that same bind off on this one. And I really like the way the hat came out. And it'll go for the babies at the hospital. That is it for this week. The only thing that I did get is, it's going to be a short one, folks. The only thing I did get in the way of acquisition was a Loom Knit Stitch Dictionary. This one is by Kathy North. I have another one, and I can't remember who it's by, but it's not Kathy North, and it wasn't the Leisure Arts. I think it may have been the one that was by Denise Cassini that does the, Luma hat. I believe that was the other one that I had. And now, let's get into what in tarnation. There is a 27-year-old Indian man who plans to sue his parents. He admits that he does have a good relationship, but he's suing them because they brought him into the world without his consent. He says that children aren't indebted to their parents, and that children should ask their mothers and fathers for an explanation as to why they gave birth to you. I want to tell all Indian kids that they don't owe their parents anything. I love my parents, we have a great relationship, but they had me for their joy and their pleasure. As a mother, I would say part of that's true, but 18 years of putting up with children's behaviors is not a joy and a pleasure. So anyway, his belief is part of a system called anti-natalism, which promotes the notion that children shouldn't be forced to be born, especially at the expense of the planet. Other Indian people must know they have an option not to have children and to ask your parents for an explanation as to why they gave birth to you. He went on to compare childbearing to both kidnapping and slavery. The outlet reported that Samuel runs a Facebook page called Nahila Nant, which boasts a whopping 800 followers. You can find various memes and videos advocating for allowing the human race to die. One photo reads, "A good parent puts the child above its wants and needs, but the child itself is a want of the parent." Another calls parents hypocrites and asks, "Isn't forcing a child in this world and then forcing it to have a career kidnapping and slavery?" Another posting reads, "The only reason your children are facing problems is because you had them." He also shared a video called "Infertile is Sexy." He shared another video, also titled, "Don't respect your parents unless you want to." What else? India, with more than 1.3 billion people, is the second most populated country in the world, not far behind China. The problem lies in the distribution of the carbon footprint in India. For the bottom 50% of the population, their carbon footprint is less than half a ton. Meanwhile, the carbon footprint for the top 10% is about 6 times of that. The Print, which is where this story came from in New Delhi, India, said a 2009 study reported that a person's carbon legacy for one single child can produce 20 times more greenhouse gas than a person would save by driving a high-mileage car, recycling, and using energy-efficient appliances and light bulbs, and noted that not having children is the biggest way to reduce the carbon footprint on the earth. But those of you in India and China, you need to curb your plastic. You're polluting the earth and the seas with your plastic. So not only don't you have to have children, clean up your plastic. Now, the second story is the hungry bear goes for a ride on a trash truck after getting stuck. This happened in Windsor, North Carolina. Drivers were startled to see a hungry bear that got stuck in the back of the garbage truck and took a ride across a stretch of eastern North Carolina. News outlets reported that a motorist called Bertie County 911 on Wednesday morning about a bear hanging out off of the truck on U.S. Route 17. Apparently, the snack-seeking bear climbed into the trash truck during a stop and became trapped after the driver secured the netting that prevents garbage from blowing out. Sheriff John Hawley says a deputy stopped the truck with the bear perched on top just outside of Windsor. The driver, who hadn't been aware of the stowaway, pulled back the net, and the bear ran off before the truck continued to the landfill. And here we have a picture of said bear in the truck, with a caption underneath that says, "Maybe we should have a Black Bear Festival." Those are yours. What in tarnation for this week? When I started this podcast today, I talked about I'm going to blame it all on the moon. This morning at 10:54 a.m. was the blood moon for February. I couldn't see it because there were clouds, so hopefully some of you were able to see it in all its glory. It's a full moon. People have been acting crazy. Not only that, we're going to go into the email again. The other day I'd made a comment about my son who was not able to adopt my grandchildren because of a domestic abuse charge. No, I was not making light of domestic abuse. The problem that I had with this charge was this. My son was dropping off his daughter to his mother at the site of Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth. He was late. She was very irate because she had to wait. And when he got there, she started hitting, scratching, kicking, and punching him. He pushed her away from him. She fell back against the car. He walked away. That was his domestic charge because she called the police after that and told a different story. The problem with that was we did not have the $3,000 that was needed to get the surveillance tape, a copy of it, to take to court. And my son, he is the over-responsible son and tells the truth. Gets him in trouble telling the truth, and I'll tell you why in a minute. When the judge asked if he had pushed her and she fell back against the car, he said, yes, I did. But she was hitting, kicking, punching me because she was angry. The judge at that point said, well, that you've committed assault. It's a domestic charge. So he did have that on his record, which state of Texas will not allow you to take foster children into your home or adopt, even if they are family, with even one charge like that. That was my domestic abuse. Now this son, being over-responsible and truthful, one day before I had to go to work, he called me from high school and told me there was a permission slip he forgot to give me to sign for some outing or something. Could I sign it and bring it to him? It was in an old coffee can in his bedroom. I got it. But when I opened up the can, there were about 40 condoms. Okay. He had a girlfriend. I was like, oh, he paid attention to my lectures about protecting yourself. You know, we don't want to be a grandmother while you're 15 years old. So, I'm thinking, oh, cool. I take him to school. The permission slip. I take that to school, hand it to him. I come home. About 10 minutes later, he calls. He says those condoms are Mike's. I'm holding them for Mike. I'm like, oh, okay. Mike was his best friend. Blow it off. I'm not concerned. Doesn't bother me a bit. I get to work, and I've been at work about 20 minutes. I get this phone call. My son said, Mom, I can't lie to you. Those are mine. And I said to him, you have been stewing about this for 6 hours? Seriously? I was not upset. But for some reason, he had to be truthful with me. So that's why I say the son, sometimes he does things, get him in trouble. He'll tell a little story, and then he comes back and he does tell you the full truth at the end. But, yeah. Okay, folks. It's a short one. I've got to get upstairs. I'm working on doing the flasher stash. I'm still cleaning out stuff that needs to go to Goodwill. So it looks like that video might come out the middle of March. Just because of the schedule that I have going on and the commitments that I have. So I do plan on doing Flash the Stash and the challenge. And you'll see that. I'm hoping maybe sooner. But we should have it ready about middle of March. My voice is a little off today. Well, it's off all the time. I'm a little hoarse. Had this sniffles. Not really a cold, but not real sure what it is. Maybe it's because I'm allergic to going into the deep cleaning. I don't know. Anyway, I will see you again next week. And everybody, remember, choose to be kind. Guess what? I forgot to give the shout-outs. Oh, it's been a crazy day. I'm adding this one in. First of all, there is Kerrie's Down the Rabbit Hole, and she is a fellow Australian like Gypsy Rose. And she has quite a few, they're short videos. She has one that was very nice and relaxing. One of these days, my goal is to own a spinning wheel. And so she was spinning yarn. And it was very relaxing to watch her spin that yarn. I believe she's pretty new to crochet. She had started crocheting a granny square, and it was a little off. I think she's on track now, but she's open about her mistakes, and yeah, give her a look-see. There's also Kim of kimberannes crochet, and also On the Hook crochet with Jeanne. Jnwynn, it's a little interesting what Jnwynn has in her background. She has a piano and she has a harp, and she calls it her office. So I'm assuming that she might possibly play or even instruct, but she does some lovely crochet items, and she shows you the item that she's crocheted, the yarn, and kind of does a review of the patterns, so that's nice to see. Give her a look-see as well. And of course, those of you that don't know, Krista from the Secret Yarnery put out a list of the, I believe she called it the top 100 crochet channels to watch. A lot of us that are on do these, we also crochet, knit, do a lot of other things. So, go check out the list. She has a video. It's about an hour long, maybe a little longer, where she talks about the channels and whatnot. So, yeah, enjoy. And still, remember to be kind.